everybody. Dr. Christy Taylor, founder of Work Solutions LLC and Work Global News Magazine. And I am so excited for another interview for our Changemaker series. Today, we're going to be interviewing Bishop Jonathan Dukes. He is an author, speaker, and community leader who has devoted more than 3 decades to ministry, mentorship, and outreach. As the presiding prelate of the Body of Christ International Fellowship of Churches and founder of Word of Life Community Church in Lincoln, Delaware, he's known for his transparent teaching and passion for helping others heal and rebuild through faith. He's the visionary behind the Growing Through Grief movement and the founder of the 33-year-old community outreach program called Take It to the Streets. And we're going to talk about some of Bishop Dukes' work today. So I want to please join me in welcoming Bishop Dukes, because he's here not only to talk about his background, but he's also here to celebrate the launch of his new book, Growing Through Grief, a 90-day biblical journey toward healing, hope, and wholeness, and the launch of his new podcast series called Blueprint to Purpose. Bishop Dukes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited about what God is doing.
Oh, we are so excited to interview today. Now, for people who are reading, now you guys know you get to go to the website and read because we do these interviews, but you read the articles, but it's where these one-on-one interviews take place where we really try to connect with you. So for people who are meeting you for the first time, tell us about who you are beyond your title and the journey that has really shaped you into the leader, pastor, and community advocate that you are today.
Yeah, I would love to share that with you. I am the son of a pastor. I think it's a long lineage of pastors in our family. But I wanted to take my own path. And so in taking my own path, it led me into what I call street knowledge, things that my mother and them didn't teach me, the streets taught me. And so as being out there long enough, God called me back in. And when he called me back in, he gave me a charge to kind of rebuild what I tore down, because a lot of things being popular because of basketball and all these things, I had, I guess, the attention of a lot of people, a lot of young people. And so just jumping forward, that was one of the reasons for taking to the streets, to kind of put positive views in front of the children that I used to act up in front of. And so those things turned me, once I got saved, that ministry just took on a world of itself, because we've always, as a family, been community advocates. And so it's always about giving back.
Take It to the Streets, because this has been one of your long-standing ministries.
Right.
You've been doing this for over 33 years. So for those who are not familiar with Take It to the Streets, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Take It to the Streets is a weekend. It's really turned into a week, but it's a weekend where we come out of the 4 walls of the church, and it's grown into like a big family affair. We have the police involved, we have the city involved, we have different agencies involved, being a big resource to our community. It's taken on a life of its own. We've had some kids that have grown up in the basketball tournaments. We have church there, so many activities, car show, all these things that we do. And I could probably take up a whole lot of time to let you get you in it. But all the things that we do is pumping positive images back into the community where I used to act up a little bit.
Well, you have spent, like you said, over 3 decades in the community. You've experienced life. You've done service in terms of ministry and outreach to others. But now you are getting ready to take this to the next level. You're getting ready to release your first book. And we are so excited to, be able to interview you for the launch of this book. And the name of this book, Growing Through Grief, it is a 90-day biblical journey, and it talks about healing, hope, and wholeness. And in this book, you share your story. Now, it marks a powerful milestone in your journey, Bishop Dukes. And so what was that defining moment that told you that it was really time to put your story, your experiences, and lessons into a written form to share with other people?
I think when you go through, I've been pastoring for a while. Once you go through something, there's a principle that many of us, not in fault or not to point at any, many of us fail to realize the responsibility that we have after we come through something. So Jesus told Peter, after thou hast been converted, strengthen your brother. And I found out that God strengthened me in an area and in a time in my life that many probably are still struggling with now. And so as I continue to trust him in a different way, he began to reveal some truths to me that I wanted to share with others. I think whenever you go through something and God brings you out of it, you want the next person to experience real wholeness, not to fake it, not to put on makeup and smile for the camera, but to really be made whole inside out.
Yeah, because this book actually comes from an experience that you have. I want you to share with the audience a little bit, not everything from the book, but a little bit of the story that really inspired the book. Because you, again, you not only are doing this, taking to the street ministry, you're involved in so many other things, but the book really comes from a conference that you were hosting called Growing Through Grief because of your own experience with losing your wife. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? How did we get to the Growing Through Grief conference? And that kind of leads up to the book.
Yeah, the growing through grief came out of that situation where my late wife was battling cancer, and um, and after she had transitioned, it left me in a way that I've never felt before. I've never been here before. I didn't know what to do, and you know what the church say? Well, just pray about it, and and just give it to the Lord or fast. But you need a little bit more information. You need to know how to, as I say, put on the word. It's one thing to quote it, but it's another thing to live it, because your reality really takes total control of your emotions if you allow it. And somehow you have to allow those emotions to be yielded to God's power. And I think that's the problem right there. We don't know how to yield to, how to get the strength out of the word. And so that's what led me to the path of healing. And so what I try to do is to uh, connect with those that have gone through grief, to let them know you don't have to live life um, in pieces and live life broken, or live life in a place of being, as you would say, defeated. That God is, and he's true to his word, and he will bring to pass that healing that you desire. And it's not going to be like anybody else's. But he does have something significant for you to help you to grow by.
So you ended up hosting a conference. We get to this book, and the book really
Yeah.
centers on the growth after hardship, as you just kind of pointed out. So how has walking through grief, brokenness, and restoration shaped your faith and your approach to leadership and how you engage with other people?
It's a classroom. When you've been in church or been around the church, you think that you got God figured out. But what I found out is that there are different components or different rooms of things that you don't have no idea that exists until you're in a position where you need something different, because the traditional things won't work anymore. You have to get something that's new, like new wine. You have to get something that is significant for you. So it prepared me in a way. Broken and not knowing which way to go and how life now, life starts all over. Everything becomes new, and nothing's the same. But I learned how to lean on him in those moments, and the more I leaned on him, the more he began. Here's one of the things. He turned one of my uh, episodes, I'll put it in that, to where I would weep. He turned my weeping into celebrating. And it's kind of hard to put it all in a shell on today, but I learned how to celebrate through the transition. And the more I began to lean to God, he began to heal me in ways that I thought I couldn't be healed. He began to do things that I thought, I didn't even know it existed. And so people have been coming up to me and said, "Man, how are you doing it?" And I'm like, "What you mean? How am I doing it? I'm just really trusting in God." So what really got growing through grief going into its fruition was there were so many broken people around me, or that would call me, text me, and they would just encourage me. And you don't know how much you're doing for me. My mother's been dead 10 years or 5 years or 4 months, and you're just blessing me, your walk. And I think, going back to the principle that I said before, when thou art converted, you start sharing, because I want you to experience the same healing that I have experienced, and it's possible. And so, as I continue to share, and it continue to grow, um, we sought out counselors. We'll probably get into that, and we just brought everybody into a real room and began to talk about what is grief. Because sometimes we think it's a one size fit all to get through this, but it's a lifetime, a journey. It's something that you have to deal with and put it in proper place so that you can go on with your life.
So for those of you again tuning in, Bishop's book is going to be available January 19th, correct?
Yes.
And we're going to make sure that we put the link and all this information in the description. And I know, as Bishop pointed out, that the 90 days healing goes beyond 90 days when you're dealing with grief. But at some point in our lives, we all will cross that bridge of grief, right? So growing
Yeah.
through grief, a 90-day biblical journey toward healing, hope, and wellness.
Yeah.
Healing, hope, and wholeness is getting that book sounds like the first step in that process of healing. And we're going to touch a little bit more on that. But I want to talk about some of your community work, because you are getting ready to really expand your platform as we move into 2026. And you've spent decades serving the community beyond the walls of the church. And so how do you personally define true community leadership? And why is presence just as important as preaching?
Oh man, I think that I'm gonna put it in some kind of shell that every man has his perfect gift, and so God has given me a gift to be able to deal with people, to be able to relate to people, to be able to connect with people. And when I started Taking to the Streets some 30 years ago, I was so upset that other churches wouldn't help, because it wasn't about me being being in the spotlight. It was about, as I said earlier, being a positive resource to our community, because the area where I did it is where they used to sell drugs and a whole lot of things went on. And it was right in the heart of the community. And I got upset a couple of times and wondering why they wouldn't help. And I remember when God stopped me and said, to let them off the hook, because I didn't give them the burden. I gave the burden to you. And so when I heard that, it really allowed me to let go of why others wouldn't help and just do what God called me to do, because there are hurting people in our community. There are people that need to hear something, see something. I think one of the things that we used to say in the Stevenson Detention Center, which is like a child juvenile detention, that our children are a product of our environment. In other words, whatever they see, that's what they become. And so in order to change that, you got to give them a new view, let them see something different. And so that's what we try to do on those occasions. I hope I answer your question. I got so much to say. I just don't want to take up all your time.
Well, I want to follow up on that, because your work really reflects that meet the people where they are philosophy, Bishop. And
Yeah.
so, really, if anybody who follows you on social media, it looks like you're doing something every other day, in terms of something in the community, something in the church. And really, how has that approach, for people who are really trying to understand you and connect with you, how has that approach influenced the way that you design a program or an event or outreach initiative? And I'm sure you collaborate with a team, but when it comes to meeting people where they are.
Yeah. How do you know how to help somebody except you getting where they're at? You have to be able to um, be able to meet a need. A lot of times, church, I don't want to talk like that, but a lot of times we think we got the answer. All you need is Jesus. But sometimes you need to get involved with the people, person, or the climate, and find out what is the real need. I've been on different boards and different associations with those that don't have homeless, and and asking questions. Some people don't even want a house. They don't want you. You would think that they don't want to be there. You would think that they would want this and want that. But when you get in there, you talk to, there are different layers of homelessness. And it's just not a one size fit all. So how do you accomplish that except you get involved and not stay on the seaside or the shore and tell somebody how to swim? Sometimes you got to get in there with them. And because of that, it makes me relevant. A lot of people call me the community pastor or community bishop. I just do. I love people, and if I can be of any help, then I'm going to do that. I talk to the city, talk to the police, whatever it takes, and to be a resource to let them know that I'm going to be there for you as much as I can. And so that develops that relationship. So now they call. They know you're authentic. One of the things that we talk about is that the street knows street. If you coming with some gimmick, they know you. They got you paying. They know that you know if you're real or not. So you just have to be real. Just be genuine about really wanting to be a help and being there. But here's one of the things, Chrissy, because sometimes when you're helping people, they lash out on you. Ooh. When you're helping somebody, sometimes they grab on you, or you might get hurt, or you might get talked about, or whatever. But when you know you have a heart for God and you know why you're doing it, you don't have to worry about those things. You just have to worry about what did I do the best thing I could do to help them to become better.
I feel like you already answered my next question for you, but I want to talk a little bit more about it because, we're getting ready to talk about you moving to this expanded platform in terms of the work that you do. And so you just said real, recognize real, right? And so
Yeah.
when you look at the responsibility of leaders, especially leaders of faith, and with your forthcoming book and the expanded direction that you're going, we're not going to say new direction, you're just expanding the work that you're already doing. Because when we look at grief, you wrote your book from the standpoint of losing your wife, but when you talk about the trauma and the experiences and the grief of young people in the streets and those young folks that you go out there and connect with, right? Let's talk about the role, because I think you can make some great points on this in terms that the responsibility of faith leaders that they have in addressing real world challenges such as loss, relationships, and generational trauma. And how does your work support addressing that?
Yeah. Being relevant, going back to being relevant, but being able to meet them where they are. They are able to open to you things that they wouldn't open to others. I think it's imperative for faith leaders, believers, to. I don't want to tell anybody what to do because I know it has to be a call. Everybody can't do what I do, but you can do something. But the labor is plenteous, but the labor, but the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. And so when they see that you are really about them getting better, they will open up in ways that you didn't expect. You will see the soft side of some people that are so hard and so cold, and you would never think that they would have tears or even care, because we live in a time now that people really, this generation don't really, if you look at them, you don't think they care about nobody.
Bishop, one of your strengths in having opportunity to work with you and support some of the things that you are doing, you speak a lot about transparency and lived experience. And I think that anybody who's listening to this interview in context, and you are getting ready to launch a new podcast called Blueprint to Purpose. And I think that people are going to be able to learn so much more about you and connect with you to a broader audience, because this is going to be online, right? And so in this transition, we talk about your transparency. Why do you believe authenticity is essential for leaders who want to have to truly have an impact on others? But not only the authenticity, but how do you plan to bring this to your new podcast platform?
Look, this is something that's been burning and burning in my spirit because of my journey, how I'm I guess moved from and y'all forgive me. Okay, I came from a Pentecostal background, so we couldn't do nothing. I don't even know if you could comb your hair. I don't know. But I came from a strict background, and that may not be all. So I'm just putting a disclaimer. I'm not trying to put the Pentecostal. Just talk about where I come from. Uh, and some of the things that we were taught can't really heal or help hurting people
Mm-hmm.
because we're always putting on a front. We're always got the lights on. But and when you become transparent, yeah, I think you have to get out of the self-righteousness and let it be known that you too have failed or come short. But this is how I got up. This, you know, because when I was young, I thought the folks did no wrong. I thought, man, they was just perfect and, going on. But as you go through life, you find out that all have sinned and come short. So how do you deal with this? Oh God, I won't sound like that. How do you deal with something that you don't know exists? I'm trying to put my words in in context so that I don't be blaming, don't be bashing, because that's a lot of stuff that's
Well,
going
this
on.
this this interview
Yeah.
is about your journey, so we know that you're speaking from the context of, and this is why we don't really edit these interviews. And I'm gonna tell you why. It's because we want you to be your real, authentic self, right? People are tuning in to learn more about you, and Bishop is speaking about his journey, and you're taking all of these years of experience, and now you're translating this you're using this for a platform where you just said, we're trying to reach a generation today
Come on.
that seemingly cannot be reached, right? And they
Yeah.
need to see that authenticity of somebody who's been where they've been, who's come from, who has God has given a vision and a platform to be able to move that forward. And
Yeah.
so, yes, so speak on it. Speak about your background and your experience and how you're taking those elements of what you felt like may have been productive or not productive, and those
Yeah.
elements that you took from growing up that you felt were productive, how you've used it and incorporated it into your own ministry, right? And those
Yeah.
things that you felt like were unproductive. And I think that's all you're trying to say is that they were not necessarily beneficial, right? But you
Yeah.
stayed remaining and standing on the word of God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you for stopping me because as a bishop, you have this great responsibility.
Mhm.
I have to be careful what I say, but in this frame, this is why Blueprint the Purpose is written, because in order to build correctly, you need to know some principles so that they're not broken and you don't find yourself in a place of self-righteousness and in a place where you can't receive. Here it goes. If you're never weak, how is his strength made perfect?
Mhm.
If you're always strong, if you always got it together, if you turn around 3 times and it's working out. No, sometimes you can turn around 60 times and it still don't work out. Where do I go now? How can I allow the word of God to be activated? And that's one of the big things for me, the activation of the word, because it just don't come on with traditions. It just don't. The power of the word, the healing of the word, the deliverance of the word just doesn't come on because of uh, 2, 3, 4 steps. It comes on when you are able to put on. Well, here you go. Submit and yield to what the word is saying. How do I bless somebody that's hurting me? How can I? They said, bless them that persecute you. Man, I wish I would.
So
Just
what people expect? So they're seeing it authentic you. And so when people tune into this podcast, I'm really excited about the launch of your Blueprint the Purpose. And you think about all the work that you've done. What can people expect to hear and learn from this podcast?
man, the podcast is really going to go at some fundamental things so that it can kind of guide you to here it is, a good relationship with God. Not a third wing, but a personal relationship with God where you can start building, and not only building, but receiving. Here's something that I like saying, Chrissy. I probably say it every other Sunday. He died that you might be healed. Don't let his dying be in vain. I'm saying a lot there. He died for everything that you need. If he died for it, he already paid for it. So now we have to figure out how to get that we need from him, from his death. It's paid for. His promises are what? Yea and amen. So why am I not receiving what he died for me to have? And sometimes it's timing. Sometimes we're not working the word that it needs to be worked. And so the blueprint is to let you know that there is not a one size fit all. Every house is not the same. It may be similar, just as he healed 3 blind men, but he healed them differently. And so sometimes in the church, we have a one size fit all, but that's not the case. The way he's going to deal with Chrissy, the way he's going to deal with me is different, but we're going to get the same result. Good God Almighty. Lord.
Bishop Dukes, it sounds like you plan to come in hot in 2026. You got a
Lord,
book,
look,
you got a podcast, you continuing your work, you're doing your work in the community. So you got some big things coming in 2026 and beyond. Now, from a leadership standpoint, you have led in times of growth and in times of crisis. And and I think some of this will also appear on your podcast, just in context, in conversations, right? How do you maintain clarity, compassion, and direction when you're leading with uncertainty, all the things that you're doing and engaging? How do you remain focused?
Man, the truth of it is, I don't want to say trauma, but when you go, these trials that you go through lead you to this maturity. Mm-hmm. You can't turn the switch on. I had to figure it out. I didn't get it right the first time, the second time, the third time, maybe even the fourth or fifth time. But because I really love God and I really wasn't going anywhere, I said to the Lord, I'm dying on this side. And because I really sought the Lord while he may be found, he began. Here, I'm going to give you something for free. Don't go through a trial don't go through a trial and don't get what it's supposed to give you. Every trial is supposed to give you a dividend. It's supposed to release something greater in your life. And many times all we get involved with or get introduced to is the pain and the discomfort. But that trial is trying to bring you something that you didn't have before. And so I had to learn that the trial wasn't a bad thing. It was a good thing. It was a way of God getting my attention to let you know that I'm getting ready to do something new in your life. And how can you be relevant in a world when you haven't gone through anything? It doesn't work that way. So the trial really benefits me. And so now, instead of rebuking it, I'm not saying, come here, trial, come here, devil, come. I'm saying that whenever the situation comes, I know God is calling me to another classroom, and then I begin to sit down and learn. And it's cry. Sometimes you got to cry. Sometimes you feel like, man, where are you? But you got to sit in that classroom. Come out of the hallway. A lot of us sit in the hallway. I mean, I ain't going in that class. That teacher don't like me.
I'll tell you what, I have my stuff prepared, in terms of how I wanted to talk to you and through this interview. Some of my questions, I feel like you just are answering them before I could even get to them, because I was sitting here listening to you. And I actually want to go back because I had skipped this question, but I just feel like what you just said was so powerful, because, I want to get to the end of your book, and because I think it builds on what you just said, because your book, it moves through, moves beyond inspiration into reflection. It goes through 3 phases, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was just listening to you talk, and when people get to the end of that 90 days, again, we recognizing that healing is ongoing, right? But what do you hope readers will do differently when they read that final chapter of your book, when they write that final journal insert, they read that final reflection from you? I feel like you just really answered it in the context of some of what you just said. But what do you, when people walk away at the end of that 90 days, what do you hope that they feel?
Man, I hope that they run into purpose. That's where the blueprint to purpose, because you don't know we don't understand God's workings, but it leads us to purpose. Yeah,
And
what we're talking.
that sound like another book is coming, Bishop.
Yeah,
It sounds like you're gonna go. Yeah, another big book is coming, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I feel it. It's the time of release. When we go through these things, it is time to share. And a lot of times, man, I had to. God was blessing me so at one point that I like kept it to myself. And then He was saying, "How am I going to get the glory if you just keep it to yourself?" Because the reason why I was keeping it to myself because I didn't want people to think I was being boastful and trying to, say, "Look at me, look at me." So I just kind of hid some of His blessings, but the responsibility, going back to what I said, there is a responsibility that's laid on you coming out. You got to reach back and help somebody else. And so I'm hoping that what I went through, see, I went through dry. I know people have died before me, and people have lost their wife, but I didn't really have a blueprint. I didn't have man, what do I do? So I'm hoping that I can be that blueprint or be some type of, I don't even want to say an answer, but a resource that will help navigate them through those murky waters. Because, people like to say, well, I know how you feel. No, you don't. As a bishop, I got to say this, Chrissy, I've done many funerals. I've been to many funerals. I've been to a lot of family funerals. But this one here was different. Some might say because it's your wife, some might, whatever it was different. It hit different. It felt different. And my world wasn't the same. And I had to learn how to trust God in a different way. And so thankfully, I had a big support system. People loved me and kept praying for us. And so that when they read this, I'm hoping that it won't take them as long to get to a place of purpose.
So you have spent again all these years doing community work. You got your first book coming out. I'm going to ask you two more questions, and we're going to wrap up this interview because you got some stuff to do. But I want to go back to this discussion on how we're engaging the community because there are people that are going to be listening to this interview that are going to be reading about you on our website. And so let's think about that young person, right? That immersion leader, that community builder. When it comes to that, what advice, what foundational mindset or principle do you believe is going to be critical for creating, you've been in this game 30 plus years. So what type of mindset does it take to create that sustainable long-term impact that you've been able to have?
It's gonna take a love of God. It's gonna take a love for God, and that sounds simple, but it's not simple because it's a track record of trust, going through a test and learning how to trust God, going through another test and learning how to trust God. It's just like Joseph being prepared to be in the role of being in control. You need those tests in order to be ready for what God really has for you. And when we see the tests and see the trials, we don't see the palace. We don't see it. We don't get connected with the palace. But those things that we're going through are preparing us for something that's heavy. And you're going to have to be ready. It's heavy. And I say glory carries weight. And so what God has in store for us is so heavy that He has to test us here so that we can have the longevity that we need and understand, okay, I've been in this situation before. Okay, I've been in loss before. I've hurt before. I've felt this before. And instead of me dying here, I grew here. And it prepares me for the next journey or the next trial that God has for us. Now, I don't know if we can do a little stop because I'm saying this, Chris, because I got 3 power strikes. I need a charger.
Well, we're almost done, Bishop, because
Okay.
let me give you the last question here because this has been really such a powerful interview with you. Looking ahead, what's next beyond your book? whether in ministry, leadership, development, or community work. Just kind of give us a 60-second, what do you have coming in 2026 besides going through grief and the podcast? What do you have coming up?
Going through grief and the podcast. Besides that, there are so many things. We have the Life After Brokenness. We have men mentoring young boys, trying to get them to know the score. I put it under that scope of knowing the score. Sometimes we play the game wrong and wonder why we're getting technical fouls, or why we're not being able to, play the game, because you don't know the rules of the game. Life has rules, and you got to be able to live by those rules. The other thing is, there's so many community work. We're going to be working with leaders. We're going to be working with ministers and those to try to give them some insight. So just as myself, I have been able to feed off of others, and create my own way, me and God's way of handling and dealing with people.
So, Bishop, it has really been a pleasure to interview you. We look forward to all of the things that you have coming. I just wanted to, to be able to kick off January with some exciting interviews with folks like you and changemakers and leaders. You can check out Bishop Dukes on www.bishopjonathandukes.com, as well as you can find his new book on Amazon.com. And again, it's Growing Through Grief.
Even when you can't see your way, you're going to have to learn how to trust Him in the hard place. Trust Him in the place of discomfort. So the enemy knows as long as he can kill your hope, he can mess around with your faith. Your faith will be without works. Your faith will be dead. Not only is it possible, you can do it. And when you do it, you're going to come out better than when you went in. The enemy, we say it all the time, is a thief. He's a robber. I'm trying to convince believers. We have to understand that He's looking forward to blessing us. And we are going to be blessed. It may not look like it right now. I may be going through right now, but trouble, it don't last always. And this too